Welcome to my channel, The Good Book Tales. In today's video, we step into a story that has echoed across generations. A story that is simple on the surface, yet carries a depth that can shake the human heart. Imagine this for a moment, a wide open field stretching endlessly under the setting sun. The air is still, except for the gentle sound of sheep moving together, their soft bleats filling the quiet evening. A shepherd walks among them, guiding with care, every step steady, every glance filled with love and responsibility. To him, these sheep are not just animals, they are his family, his trust, his life's purpose. But what happens when one of them suddenly disappears? The story of the lost sheep begins with that very moment. A moment that turns peace into worry, calm into chaos, and safety into danger. The shepherd knows every single sheep in his flock, not just by number, but by presence, by their steps, by their voice. He knows when even one is missing. And on this evening, as the shadows stretch longer and the night draws near, he realizes with a sudden chill that one sheep has wandered off. At first glance, it might not seem like much. After all, 1 out of 100? Does it really matter? To many, it wouldn't. But for this shepherd, it matters more than anything. Because this is not just about numbers, this is about care, about loyalty, about love that refuses to give up. He cannot rest. He cannot move on, not while one of his sheep is alone and in danger. Think about it. How many times in life do we find ourselves drifting, feeling unseen, forgotten, or left behind? That is the beauty of the parable of the lost sheep. It reminds us that no matter how far we wander, no matter how small or insignificant we feel, we are never truly abandoned. The shepherd's search is a reflection of that truth, but the danger is real. As the night deepens, the lost sheep walks farther into the wilderness. The gentle hills are now covered in shadows, the paths twist and disappear, and the air grows colder. The sheep is alone, vulnerable to cliffs, thorns, and predators waiting in the darkness. Every step it takes carries more risk, more uncertainty, and yet, unaware of the shepherd's love, it continues wandering, searching for something it cannot name. Meanwhile, the shepherd stands at the edge of the field, counting again and again, his heart racing. He knows where the flock is safe, but his mind and his spirit are already with the one who is missing. Leaving the 99 behind, he tightens his cloak and steps into the unknown. Every sound in the distance, every rustle in the brush, every gust of wind could be a clue or a threat. The story is just beginning, and the question remains, will he find the lost sheep before it is too late? The shepherd's footsteps echoed softly against the rough ground as he moved away from the flock. Behind him, the 99 sheep huddled together, unaware of what was unfolding. They were safe, watched over by the open field, but the shepherd's heart refused to rest. One was gone. One life out there was lost, and he could not let fear, fatigue, or the darkness of the night stop him from searching. His mind replayed the moment he noticed the absence, the sudden gap in the rhythm of his flock, the silence where a familiar sound should have been. To others, it might have been nothing, but to him it was everything. He tightened his cloak as the wind whispered through the hills, carrying with it the sound of rustling branches and distant cries of night creatures. Every noise seemed sharper, every shadow deeper. Somewhere in this growing darkness, the lost sheep wandered further from safety. The shepherd knew the dangers well, steep cliffs hidden by the dark, thorny bushes that could trap its wool, and predators waiting for the smallest sign of weakness. The thought of the sheep alone in such a place made his pace quicken, his staff held firm in his hand. But as much as this was a story of danger, it was also a story of love. The shepherd was not chasing after wealth or recognition. He was searching because he cared deeply for the one who had strayed. He knew its bleat, its patterns, even its fears. This was not just any sheep. It was part of his flock, part of his life, and losing it was not something he could accept. His determination grew with each step, as if every heartbeat reminded him that he had a mission to complete. Somewhere, in the wilderness, the sheep's own journey was unfolding. Frightened and confused, it wandered through paths it had never walked before. The silence of the flock was gone, replaced by an eerie quiet, broken only by the sounds of the night. Each step forward brought more uncertainty, more distance from the shepherd who had always been its guide. It did not know which way was home, nor did it know how close the dangers were. And so, the night pressed on. The shepherd moved steadily into the darkness, eyes sharp, heart heavy, but hopeful. The sheep stumbled further into unknown ground, unaware of the watchful love that was still following. Somewhere between them hung the tension of the moment, a question that lingered in the shadows. Would the shepherd reach the lost one before the night grew too deep, or before danger struck first? The wilderness grew darker as the shepherd pressed forward, the moon now veiled by drifting clouds. Every step seemed heavier, not just from the rocky ground beneath him, but from the weight of knowing how fragile a single life could be when left alone. He imagined the lost sheep caught in the thorns, tangled and unable to move, its soft cries fading into the night without anyone to hear. The fear of losing it forever drove him faster, though the shadows whispered doubts in his mind. At the same time, another conflict stirred within him. The 99 sheep he had left behind were safe, but leaving them meant trust. Trust that they would stay together. Trust that nothing would scatter them while he was gone. The shepherd had always been their shield, their constant guide. Yet tonight, his love for the one pushed him into a difficult choice. Was it worth risking everything for a single sheep? His heart answered quickly, yes, but the question still weighed on him, making the silence around him feel louder. Meanwhile, the sheep itself wandered deeper, its small hooves stumbling over uneven stones. The night air carried strange scents, some harmless, others threatening. It was not only lost in place, but lost in spirit, torn between moving forward and turning back. From the sheep's view, the world was suddenly vast and frightening, filled with paths that led nowhere. Its fear grew, and in that fear was the danger of giving up hope altogether. The wilderness seemed to hold its breath, caught between the shepherd's search and the sheep's wandering. The story of the lost sheep was no longer just about distance, but about love and fear clashing in the dark. Somewhere out there, the turning point was waiting, but neither knew how close it was. The shepherd's pace quickened as the path narrowed into a steep trail winding between jagged rocks. The night was no longer quiet, it was alive with unsettling sounds. Branches snapped under unseen weight, the cry of an owl pierced the silence, and the wind carried whispers that made every shadow look like danger waiting to strike. His grip tightened on the staff, his heart pounding, every step pulling him deeper into the unknown. He called out softly, his voice steady but filled with urgency, hoping the lost sheep would hear. The sound echoed back, empty, swallowed by the darkness. Far ahead, the sheep stumbled dangerously close to the edge of a cliff, its small body trembling as loose stones rolled beneath its feet. It froze, its eyes wide, unable to move forward or turn back. The wilderness had turned into a maze of fear. Thorns tugged at its wool, rocks cut against its legs, and the vast emptiness pressed in from all sides. Alone, it felt smaller than ever, unaware that rescue was fighting its way toward it. The shepherd's mind raced with images of what could be happening. The sheep trapped, hurt, or worse. The thought of arriving too late weighed on him more than the climb itself. He pressed on, guided by hope and the faint possibility of hearing the familiar cry of the one he refused to abandon. His ears strained against the night, listening for any sign, any sound that could break through the tension. The air grew colder, the wind sharper, and the distance between him and the lost sheep felt endless. And then, just as the silence seemed too heavy to bear, a faint cry drifted across the darkness. Weak, distant, and desperate. The shepherd froze, heart pounding, realizing he was closer than ever, yet knowing danger was just as near. The faint cry lingered in the shepherd's ears, pulling him forward with a surge of hope. Yet as he pressed toward the sound, another noise broke through the night, a low, unsettling growl echoing from the rocks ahead. His heart stopped for a moment. He knew that the wilderness was not empty. Wolves often prowled in the shadows, waiting for the weak, waiting for the lost. The thought sent a chill through him, sharper than the wind. The cry of the sheep had been weak, fragile, but the growl was steady, dangerous, and far too close. The shepherd gripped his staff tighter, his steps quick but careful, every sense on alert. The darkness seemed to close in, every shadow now a threat. He could hear the sheep again, bleating in fear, the sound trembling in the stillness. But layered beneath it was the unmistakable rhythm of movement, paws scraping against stone, circling, closing in. The shepherd realized he was no longer racing against time alone. He was racing against a predator that had already found what he was searching for. Back at the cliffside, the sheep trembled, torn between the steep drop on one side and the rustling shadows on the other. It sensed the danger, the presence of something lurking just out of sight. Its cries grew louder, desperate, but with each sound it made, it revealed its location not only to the shepherd, but also to the predator waiting in the dark. The tension in the air thickened, as if the entire wilderness was holding its breath, watching what would happen next. The shepherd's heart pounded as he drew closer, his body moving faster despite the rough ground. He could not let fear win, but the question pressed heavily on him. Would he reach the sheep before the danger struck? Every second mattered, every breath counted. He whispered a prayer under his breath, his eyes fixed on the shadows ahead, knowing that the next few steps could change everything. The night was no longer just a search. It had become a race, a battle of love against fear, of safety against destruction. And though the faint cry still echoed in the air, the growl was growing louder too, closing the space between life and loss. The shepherd moved faster now, his heart driving him forward as the growl grew louder. The faint cry of the lost sheep echoed through the rocks, weak but alive, pulling him closer to the cliffside. Suddenly, through the shifting shadows he saw it, the small, trembling figure of the sheep caught between jagged stones, its wool tangled in thorns. Just beyond, two glowing eyes flashed in the darkness, fixed on the helpless creature. The predator had arrived first. The shepherd's chest tightened, but there was no time for fear. With a cry that shattered the silence, he raised his staff high and rushed forward. The wolf snarled, stepping back for a moment, startled by the sudden force of the shepherd's presence. The sheep bleated louder, a sound of both terror and hope, as if it knew its shepherd had come. The night trembled with the clash of determination and danger. The shepherd stood firm, his staff striking the ground with power, his voice echoing through the wilderness. The wolf hesitated, circling, but the shepherd refused to yield. Step by step he drove it back, until finally, with one fierce strike, the predator vanished into the dark, its growl fading into the distance. The silence that followed was sharp, broken only by the ragged breathing of the shepherd and the frightened cries of the sheep. He rushed forward, kneeling to free the tangled wool, his hands gentle though trembling with exhaustion. At last, he lifted the lost sheep into his arms, holding it close against his chest. Relief washed over him, heavier than the night itself. The sheep was safe. The search had not been in vain. But as he turned back toward the path home, the unexpected twist revealed itself. The flock he had left behind, those 99 sheep he had trusted to remain safe, were no longer where he had left them. The open field that once held them was now empty, their presence scattered. The shepherd froze, the weight of the rescued sheep in his arms a reminder of victory, even as a new question rose with the night air. He had saved the one he sought, but now the 99 were lost. The shepherd stood still for a moment, holding the lost sheep close as he looked out into the empty field. The place where the 99 had once gathered in safety now lay silent under the moonlight. For a heartbeat his heart sank, but then he remembered the truth. Sheep are drawn to their shepherd's voice. They may scatter, but they are never beyond his call. With steady breath, he lifted his head and began to call out, his voice carrying strong and clear across the night. The sound traveled over the hills and through the valleys, cutting through the silence like a guiding light. And slowly, faintly at first, the familiar sound of bleating answered back. One by one, shadows began to move on the horizon. The flock had wandered, but they had not gone far. Drawn by the voice they knew and trusted, they returned, gathering again under the watchful eyes of the shepherd. Relief washed over him as the 99 surrounded him, pressing close, safe once more. With the lost sheep still cradled in his arms, the shepherd walked back into the heart of his flock. Every step was filled with gratitude, every heartbeat echoing the lesson that had unfolded in the wilderness. The night had tested him with fear, danger, and doubt, but it had also revealed the depth of his care that would not let even one be forgotten. As dawn began to break, painting the horizon with light, the shepherd rested among his flock. The lost sheep, once trembling and afraid, now lay quietly against him, safe and found. The others grazed nearby, their calm presence restoring peace to the moment. The story of the lost sheep is more than a tale of one shepherd and his flock. It is a reminder that every life matters, no matter how small, no matter how far it may wander. It teaches us about love that never gives up, about the courage to seek what is missing, and about the joy that comes when what was lost is found again. In the end, the shepherd's search was not in vain. It was proof that true care sees beyond numbers and never forgets the one. And so, the night of fear gave way to a morning of hope, leaving us with the truth that no one is ever too far to be sought, too lost to be found, or too forgotten to be loved.